I'm just adding quickly on what my colleagues already said about the situation in West Bank, and including Jerusalem, is that in the last few months, the Israeli settler colonial apartheid regime just added almost 1,000 gates imposed to the Palestinian communities, and communities, cities, villages, and even a very small communities that's slicing all the West Bank into cantons, bantustans, preventing Palestinians from reach each other, with gates that's open sometimes for only 2 hours a day. And just keeping in mind that many villages, Palestinian villages, have no hospitals, and they need to travel to the cities to get some medical treatments. But what must be understood by the international community by now is that the imposed fragmentation of Palestinian is part and parcel of Israel's settler colonial regime of genocide, illegal occupation, and apartheid that rules over all Palestinians. The 7 million of us live directly under this brutal regime, and the 7+ million Palestinians who live in the forced exile. Today, Palestinians under Israeli control are subjected to a live-stream genocide in Gaza, ongoing ethnic cleansing and persecution in occupied West Bank, including Jerusalem, as in 1948 territories. It's one apartheid system that uses different methods to control and elimination to fulfill its declared intent of ending the existence of the indigenous Palestinians on our homeland. This has come crystal clear in Gaza, where for over 21 months, apartheid has been carrying a live stream genocide. The UN, this committee, the OIC, and member states have been receiving the documentation of Israel's systematic atrocity, crimes from UN bodies, independent experts, international human rights organizations such as Amnesty International, and the Palestinian Human Rights Organization, among others, for many years. The OIC has been vocal such systematic crimes, including apartheid, over the past years. In February 2022, the OIC welcomed Amnesty International's report that documented Israeli apartheid against Palestinians as a cruel regime of domination and a crime against humanity. In November 2024, following UNJ ES 10-24 resolution passed with overwhelming majority, the OIC made a submission to the Secretary General requesting a mechanism to address the International Court of Justice, finding that Israel is in breach of Article 3 of the International Convention on the Elimination of Form and Racial Discrimination, that Israel is committing apartheid and racial segregation against Palestinians. In the submission, the OIC calls for the establishment of a mechanism that is able to address the violation of Article 3 of the International Convention of the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination and its apartheid, as a system carried out by the entire state structure and crimes against humanity, as a crucial component of settler colonialism, which is imposed against the entirety of the Palestinian people across of the Palestinian geography, and which crucially includes Palestinian refugees. The OIC submission to the SG then called for a mechanism to focus on concrete, actionable measures to dismantle the apartheid system, underpinning Israel's violation of Article 3 of the Convention, and seek accountability of those responsible and complicit through the implementation of measures. Indeed, it's measures that are so urgently needed, and the OIC has again charted the way. The OIC resolution on the issue of Palestine and Al-Quds Sharif, adopted by the 5th Summit Conference held in Gambia on May 5, 2024, called on all states to take measures to end Israel's crimes against the Palestinian people, including by imposing sanctions on Israel, the occupying power, and halting the export of weapons and ammunition used by its army to perpetrate the crime of genocide in Gaza, along with the crimes committed by the terrorist settlers and the killing of Palestinians in the West Bank, including Al-Quds Al-Sharif city. The resolution called on OIC member states to impose sanctions at all international economy, economic, sports, and cultural levels, expelling Israel from international organizations and forums, refraining from supporting its candidacy to international positions, and freezing the assets of persons and entities proven to have been involved in the crimes committed against Palestinian people. Urged the OIC member state to consider imposing sanctions on persons, entities that support Israel in its crimes against the Palestinian people, and requests the OIC General Secretariat to consider the measure in all its aspects and to report thereon to the member states. While some OIC states continue the shameful armed trade with Israel, and some provide it with oil that powers its genocide or buy gas from it, funding its apartheid, some OIC member states have pioneered taking effective measures to fulfill their obligation by imposing sanctions against Israel. Almost a week ago, the UN has published a groundbreaking report by UN Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in the occupied Palestinian territories, Francesca Albanese, urging trade unions, lawyers, civil society, and ordinary citizens to press for boycott, divestment, sanctions, justice for Palestine, and accountability at international and domestic level. And today, we mark 20 years of the Palestinian-led global BDS movement. The report From Economy of Occupation to Economy of Genocide presents in unprecedented details corporate complicity in Israeli regime of occupation, apartheid, and genocide against Palestinians. It exposes corporate interests that underpin Israel's settler colonial, twofold logic of displacement and replacement aimed at dispositioning and erasing Palestinians from their land. Furthermore, it lays the groundwork for accountability and urges states to fulfill their international obligations, including through sanctions and other measures in response to corporate complicity. Maintaining complicity and not upholding obligations under international law not only has the devastating impact on Palestinian lives and livelihoods, but it's also work to destroy the multilateral system of rule of international law. This was indeed recognized by the OIC. In the resolution of the Extraordinary Arab and Islamic Summit in November 2024, states called on the international community to take effective action to compel Israel to adhere to international law, denouncing the double standards in the application of international law, international humanitarian law, and the United Nations Charter, and warning that this double standards seriously undermines the credibility of the states that immunize Israel and place it above accountability, along with the credibility of multilateral action, and exposes the selectivity of the application of the system of human values. The colonial West, led by the US, has been showing over and over again that it is disowning international law, making it irrelevant, speaking clearly in the language of might makes right, saying that we have the power, let us see how far we can go. This is the most evident in the US-Israel live-streamed genocide in Gaza, as well as in the war of aggression on Iran, Israel occupation and attack in Lebanon and Syria. The destruction of international law is reflected in the policy and media debates on Iran in the UK, Germany, and other Western states that fully support Israel and the US. Even the two-state solution, which was supposed to be discussed in June, was buried by the US-Israel genocidal axis, who threatened states against participation. Palestinian civil society is calling on states to address ending complicity, heeding their legal responsibility, and upholding Palestinian rights under international law. Now is the time to translate rhetoric into action, declared policies into meaningful accountability measures by imposing a full and a comprehensive military and energy embargo on Israel, including by ensuring that territorial waters, ports, and flags are not being used for the illegal military transfers, suspending Israel from the United Nations General Assembly, the Olympics, and FIFA, re-establishing the UN Special Committee against Apartheid as an effective mechanism to prevent and punish Israeli apartheid regime, mobilizing enough pressure on the UN to adopt ethical procurement and corporate partnership policies that exclude companies that are complicit in grave human rights, international law violations. Palestinians everywhere, especially in Gaza, are counting on your solidarity and fight to end complicity. Do not let us down, do not let Gaza down. And thank you so much.